10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Good luck, studio.
Oh, it's that time again. Paul Chandler's gonna start this whole thing he does. It's called the Shy Life Podcast. It's probably gonna start any minute now. Anyway, I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, sit back and relax.
All I wanted was a pie, and then I hatched out of an egg.
Okay, bring the mic over. He's ready to record.
It's the quiet ones you've got to watch, you know.
Is it metaphorical? Is it deep? Is it deep?
Boy, he's not all that shy is right.
Blimey, Governor, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
Excellent. 500.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Shy Life Podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti. How are you doing? I'm all right. So what are we doing this episode? Well, we're going to be talking about music again. We're going to be talking about the big hits of 1998 in the UK and the US. And we have Lee Robertson back with us. Hi, Lee.
Good evening. No, it's not evening. It's afternoon, isn't it?
Oh, it might be when they listen to it.
Yeah, covering all good evening. Well, who was that? Alice, good morning, good evening. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, best fill other words in.
Well, we'll let you have a quick lie down, or else we've run the theme music, and when we come back, we'll get talking about these hits. So run that theme music.
Darling, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
Yes, but it's not the thing called the Shy Life.
You won't find a cast of characters like this everywhere.
Hello, Paul.
I'll go anywhere for a potato.
Delicious.
Hello, Captains. How are you?
You quite like a big bang, don't you?
Go Shy Yeti.
Oh, I hope he hasn't found out my secret. Do you think he has?
If you thought that was bad, just listen to this.
Oh, I can't wait for it to begin.
It's the Shy Life Podcast.
I like that. Yeah, I'm strangely drawn to Yeti Uncle John's ankles as well.
But has the Shy Life Podcast slowed down? I don't think so.
It's all gooey and meaty and yum.
Has anyone seen my hot sausage?
And we're back. So, 1998. I mean, I've been looking at some of the songs, and I think we had the better ones in the UK. It was quite varied this year. I mean, good and bad, but at least varied, which is the main thing. What do you remember from 1998, if anything? Or do you remember anything about the music?
I have no recollection of 19. I've reached that age in my life where unless somebody shows me a photograph or an actual goes, this is what happened, I go, oh yeah, so it did. I've just quickly looked at the charts and it was very pop. Yeah. So that's made me slightly happy. I think it was kind of the height of the mix, the boy bands and girl bands. So that think the Britpop had kind of been done and dusted, and pop had regained its.
There were a few bands that sort of probably came out of Britpop, like Catatonia. I think they were quite big, and they had been around during Britpop, but they weren't sort of big when Britpop was big. But I think it's going to be quite an interesting year. I'm just having a look to see any events, this was the year that one of the guys from Chumbawamba poured ice over John Prescott at the 1998 game.
Oh, yes, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, I do remember that.
And Liam Gallagher broke a fan's nose in Brisbane when he took photo. Oh, and he apparently abused people on a flight, the Cathay Pacific, difficult to say, the Cathay Pacific flight as well. So that's what he was up to. Oh, and Mark Morrison was arrested and sentenced for jail.
Rowdy boys that year.
Apparently, he sent a lookalike to do. He was already in trouble when he sent a lookalike to do his community service. Went off on tour.
I do remember that. Yes, yeah.
I mean, it's just these are events. Just needs to be fights. It's also the year that George Michael got into trouble.
In the toilets.
In California, Beverly Hills. Jerry Halliwell left the Spice Girls. And the chart show ended and was replaced by CD UK, which wasn't as good as the chart show. But I don't think it was. I mean, it was. I used to watch CD UK, but I did miss the chart show.
Was CD UK with Ant and Dec or Cat Deeley?
And Cat Deeley, yeah. It sort of came after whatever they did.
Yeah, it came after the children's, the SMTV Live. Yes, I do remember that.
But it was all just studio stuff. It was a bit like Top of the Pops, I suppose.
Yes, lots of
you got the video.
interviews and performances and stuff. Yes, I do remember. I do remember that, dear. Yes,
and actually, we Callum and I used to have a because when they had a song to sort of punctuate the end of the song, you'd have the big announcement like CD UK, CD, and Callum and I had a bit of a sort of ongoing thing where there was a moment. Like you were out somewhere and something happened, and it just felt like you should hear CD UK booming out. It became a bit of a. It obviously had to be there, but Ian Brown did something threatening on an airplane. It's the only facts there are is people throwing things at people.
Is angry straight boys throwing their weight around on public transport and trying to get out of community. I like to imagine that Mark Morrison sent somebody dressed in like a complete sort of like Mark Morrison costume, like full on dark glasses in it and a suit with sequins on it.
Some people sort of some people have views of what they think are smart, which other people don't, and really it's just like a really just a stereotype of like some probably went in a suit, shiny glasses. Right. Well, I think we'll just get on with the music. There's not enough that's different enough to discuss about events, but I think we have quite a lot of songs that just did one 1 week, but I think we've discussed that before that it sort of gets to that sort of stage. But so the first number one in the UK of 1998 is, and it's one that was number one towards the end of last year as well. So we won't talk about it for too much because I think we covered it quite a lot. But it's That Perfect Day, various artists.
It was Hanging Over from the previous year. Yeah.
And in between, it was number one for 2 weeks, sort of late November, early December. Then we had Teletubbies, then we had Spice Girls. Then it came back to Perfect Day for one more week. But the next number one after that is a sort of well-known one. It's Never Ever by All Saints.
Oh yes, their Uber hit.
Yes, they'd done maybe just one single before that, which did okay but didn't do as well. This is their first number one, I think.
Yes,
I can remember. Just trying to check. I know where it's at. It's got number 4. I think that was would have been late in '97. So this is their second single. They pretty good.
It was. I think that's the one that whenever you say All Saints, that's probably the one that you think about the most is Never Ever.
Yeah. I didn't think of Pure Shores, but I think you're right though. That's probably the one that the public would think of, because it didn't they sort of. They're wearing their cargo pants and things.
Yeah, and I think the video, they're walking through a room and there's explosions going off and stuff. I don't know why. And the kind of like the spoken word bit. Is that at the beginning or at the end? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have listened. I mean, I have bought the sort of noughties and teens All Saints albums. So when I do listen to them, I tend to listen to. Well, I don't really listen to whole albums much these days. It's more. So I have listened to some of their later singles that I've which are now old as well. Some of the ones that didn't do so well, because the sort of the early ones did well, but they did some good ones more recently that didn't do so good, but they were good.
They were good, yeah. I think it's just that kind of typical. If you pass the age of 35 and that's pushing it, you're not going to get a hit because the radio won't play your stuff. But I like the fact that they're still together. That because they did kind of sort of split up for a while, and then have managed to kind of Spice Girls kind of carry on creating stuff.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it doesn't feel like they're doing it for a reunion or for an event, which it does with Spice Girls.
Yes, yeah, for a huge paycheck.
And they've I think Spice Girls have only ever done 2 or 3 songs when they have come back, and for like greatest hits or something. There's never new material hasn't been there for.
No.
But I've just got. I think that the All Saints just come and stood outside my house, actually.
Have they?
Yeah, I think so. Well, somebody's got off the train and they've got...
Those Appleton twins, rowdy girls, rowdy. They became a duo, didn't they, for a short period of time? Appleton.
Yeah, they had a couple of top 40 hits and at least one top 10 hit, I think. I think I had their album. I think they all do solo singles. I know.
I don't think that I think the Appletons were more successful than perhaps Shaznay and Melanie. I think they released songs, but I don't think they charted particularly very high.
I think people muttered a lot about Shaznay because she tended to write their songs, but
I think she wrote for other people. More than kind of herself. I think I remember having a Shaznay Lewis album. Quite liked it.
Well, after that, we have Oasis with All Around the World for 1 week. Not my favourite Oasis.
Not my cup of tea. I don't even remember it. I don't remember it. What was it? All Around the World.
All Around the World.
Oh, okay.
Just a bit sort of by numbers.
So I'm getting confused with that E17 song now. Been around the world. Yeah, that would be a good mashup. Somebody out there.
Then we have for 1 week Usher, You Make Me Wanna.
Oh, okay.
Don't know that if I know that or not, but
You Make Me Wanna. It was very. Yeah, it was that kind of very polished R&B American type stuff, wasn't it?
I'm just trying to see. He's been around a while, actually. His first album was 94, but I don't know when we first heard about him. Looks like 97. Looks like perhaps it's one of those things where people are around and perhaps we don't discover them over here until like a second album or
surprised. I always kind of think of him perhaps as that's quite a long career. That I didn't think he was. I kind of assumed he was more sort of
more naughty.
Yeah,
but his first 2 singles over here didn't do that well over here. But then he was in '98. He was having Pop Your Collar, number 2. You Remind Me, number 3. You Got It Bad, number 5. You Don't Have to Call, number 6. He's spelling his singles like Prince did with the
with the U's.
Everything is you. I suppose that could be because you and Usher, whether it's some stylized. And but then there's in 2000 and these are going into the noughties now. And Burn and Caught Up and Love in This Club. And Oh My God or OMG. DJ Got Us Falling in Love.
Oh, I like that one. That's a particular favourite of mine.
Climax, Scream. That's 2012. I mean, he's quite lucky that presumably he's not exactly a spring chicken anymore.
Spring chicken, no. It's like, I think he's kind of deceptively ageless. People don't actually realise how old he is. A bit like Sia, but he doesn't really have the fringe.
He's 43. He was having hits well into the teens. So.
When he was a fetus, when he was born.
Yeah. So after, I think this is a favourite of yours coming up. After Usher, we have A.W.O.L with Dr. Jones for 2 weeks.
It was. I wasn't. I have to say, I'm not a massive Aqua fan. It kind of sort of like teetered on the novelty for me, and then they released "Turn Back Time," which was a proper belting pop song, which wasn't kind of cheesy. Yeah.
I kind of would say the same. I didn't hate them, but I mean, in fact, at time of recording, we seem to be competing with Top of the Pops repeats because they're doing their documentaries of each year. Like rather than wait until they're actually showing the episodes, they're doing them every few weeks. So, I think we just got ahead with our 1997 episode before they did their 1997 episode, and I don't want to be mean about it, but I think we did a much more interesting episode than they did because they picked, I think, to give a real diverse picture of 1997, they did stuff or acts that had only just done like maybe one top 10 hit, not all the number ones. Whereas I think we were more accurate. But I think by the time this episode goes out, they'll have overtaken us. So, but not to say we still won't have done it better than them. But so yes. So, but A.W.O.L were on the 1997 episode because Barbie Girl falls into 97, and even though they weren't my favourite, they were one of the better bits of that.
Euro pop.
Because they're still around.
They are, yes, and they're looking quite good for their advanced age. One would imagine.
And two of them are married as well. And anyway, next. After the, actually, I'm surprised. Actually, it does come back, but we have Celine Dion. My Heart Will Go On, and it's only for 1 week, but it feels like one of those ones that was at number one
forever. Yeah. Did it? I think that might have come back. Mightn't it? Did it coincide with the? Did we have DVDs in 97? I don't think we did we? Really. 98. Did it coincide with the video VHS release of Titanic? Possibly.
I've done. I try and think. It didn't. It wasn't in the charts last year. It does. Yeah, we will hear. We will see it comes back in, but it just feels like it was around for ages and ages.
Yeah. There was I don't know if it was a countrywide thing, but I used to, on a radio station where I lived, they played sort of like this remix of it that kind of sort of had sort of dialogue of the actual film at the start of it, and then it turned into this massive house banger. And I don't know if that was like just for that station or whether it was like, like Madonna had a dance version of Don't Cry For Me, Argentina. I don't know if it was that kind of a thing. Which is nice, a nice dance banger about a massive ship sinking and drowning thousands of people, which,
I'm not really a big Celine Dion fan. I'm sure there are ones but it's one of those things where when you end up sort of deciding that perhaps you don't really like an act, you then unfortunately miss when they may do
a good song, or one that you like. I like Celine Dion the person more than I like Celine Dion and her music.
I mean, it's like Mariah Carey. I've never been a fan of hers, but I have been pointed in the direction of tracks that by somebody who thought, well, I know what you like pop-wise, so you may like this. And then sure enough, I did find some I liked. They weren't necessarily always the famous ones. And I think with Celine Dion, I like that Falling Into You one. But I don't know why now. I don't think I would actually own it.
I don't know why. I just do.
I disapprove of her version of Power of Love just because there's nothing wrong with it. I'd rather hear the original.
Okay, my favorite all-time Celine Dion track, I think, is from sort of like the very sort of like mid-90s, is "Misled," which is completely not not the kind of track that you imagine, and she used the words "diss" in it, which I just like there. And if I've been dissed, she says, "You've been seriously misled." I love that song.
Yeah, I'm sure. I always kind of think that, yeah, there's probably, I bet there's pretty much everyone out there I bet even if I don't think I like them, there'll be a song on some album or some B-side that I just don't know. So I always presume that even the people I don't think I like, that there must be something in their catalogue I will like. After Celine Dion, for 1 week, I mean, it's surprising that these are just 1 week, some of these ones, because they're so well known. But we got Corner Shop with Brimful of Asher.
The Norman Cook remix.
Yeah.
Right, yes. Because that took it from kind of a bit of a sort of a bland, sort of folky type song into a bit of a quirky pop bop. Yes, I do remember that. I think I bought that. It's all about bosoms, isn't it? Bosoms for pillows and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know that I ever had the album, but it's one of those ones. It's one of those ones a bit like the Chemical Brothers and things like that, where I can see that I might have bought an album on the off,
but on a single,
and then kind of like, it's one of those ones I either would have bought as a single, or I might have sort of been tempted and then kind of regretted because I never actually liked it. It turned out that's what I liked. After that, we have Frozen by Madonna, again just for 1 week.
How coinky dinkle with her just releasing 27 remixes of it this very month.
Yeah.
Not keen on the remixes.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big fan of most remixes, or not, depends. But there's one, when I think of remixes, like positive remixes, there's a, I think it was Robin and Royksop, certainly Robin, The Girl and the Robot, back in about 2010, which was a really good song that never did that well. But there was a remix. There was like some sort of CD with like 10 remixes, and I loved every remix. And I was like, this is a real exception to the rule. These remixes have managed to sort of.
Frozen was a good track, and oddly, I think she premiered it on the the lottery show. It was kind of like in the UK. It was kind of like, oh, that's odd. Like Dale Winton saying, and here's Madonna, and she was in full on goth mode with a black wig and a stuff. Oh, those are the days, Madonna.
It's this is the point where I started. I mean, obviously, I always liked Madonna and Madonna singles, but she was always a singles act for me. And then that was the first album that I bought, and then after that started a sort of thing with me of pretty much buying her albums all the way through the noughties maybe into the early teens. But I hadn't really bought her albums before that. That was a really good. Way of Light. Was it Ray of Bright Light was the album name as well?
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Well, following Frozen, we have My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion again.
Oh, she's back again.
She's back, but only for 1 week again. So.
She managed to cling onto that door frame in the ocean just for a little bit longer.
Yeah, because there's been 2 other songs in between. But weirdly, after her again, the next number one was number one for 6 weeks, which I think is certainly one of the biggest, if not the biggest. I can't see that. There's so many number ones this year, I can't even see to the end of the year from what I'm looking at. It's Run DMC versus Jason Nevins. It's Like That. Oh,
I loved that song. I wouldn't know what Jason Nevins looks like because I don't think he ever appeared in any of his videos. But it was he kind of hippity hoppity did it up, didn't he?
I mean, I remember it to a point, but
the video was kind of like two opposing teams of hip hop dancers having like a dance off in a warehouse, and one of them is perhaps a slightly older gentleman, and they pull his wig off and stamp on it. I probably was about 85 when it came out, and fancied myself as a hip hop artiste dancer for about a week.
Do robot dancing. That's more my cup of tea. Oh no, sorry, I misread that. I thought I don't know that song by All Saints. It wasn't by All Saints. They're the name below. So dear. Talk about someone who's 85. So the next number one is Boyzone, All That I Need.
I don't recall it. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like Boyzone. I think it's the name. It's the worst. Boyzone and Backstreet Boys, the worst names ever. And you can kind of understand they had like sort of middle-aged homosexual managers that probably thought they were really hip names, but no. I can't. You know, when you were saying, there's at least one song of somebody's that you like. I can't bring myself to.
No, you don't have to actually. Just think of that, but don't have to do the research to find it. That's horrible. That's horrible. Yeah. No. Apparently, it was the third single from their third album. So they're doing well, and particularly now, probably 17 are waning, and Take That already gone. So. And it's before Westlife, which I mean they were awful as well.
They were just becoming to maturation in the incubator, in the boy band incubator. They weren't quite ready yet.
But we're back to happier territory, although it is covers. We've got All Saints for 1 week with Under the Bridge and Lady Marmalade.
Oh yes, the covers of those two songs.
And I think probably Under the Bridge, I think, I don't think that was a big hit over in the UK. So I think it was, I certainly don't remember it. Well,
it's a cover of the Red Hot Chili Peppers song, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm trying to find out how well the Red Hot Chili Peppers version did.
It was a double-sided single, wasn't it? Lady Marmalade and Under the Bridge.
I think All Saints version was probably the first version I mean, maybe I'd heard the Red Hot Chili Peppers version, but I think theirs was certainly did a lot better. And this was before Moulin Rouge, of course.
It was.
And it was number one again in about 3 years' time. So.
And the famous... Who was the rapper in Moulin Rouge? Who was the rap artist that they had? It was Pink, Lady Gaga...
no, not Lady Gaga. She wasn't in there.
No, Pink, Christina Aguilera,
yes.
Another singer, and then... I can't remember what the rapper was called.
Little Kim or something.
Little Kim, yes. And then when they all had their freestyle bit, she just went in the middle of it.
I think I prefer. I mean, I like the because when Tales of the City was on TV, and that was all set in the sort of 70s. I think that's the first time in the early 90s. That's really the first time I came aware of Lady Marmalade, and I had like a soundtrack album of that, and. But I like the All Saints version, but I do. It's
not amazing. It's not like it doesn't. I don't think anything can top the original in this instance.
Dealey, what do you think? Dealey's here. Dealey, what do you think of Lady Marmalade?
He goes.
Girls, you let us down. You better freestyling than that. Are you going to come and sit on me before I start reading anymore? Oh, right. Sit down. Sit down. No, sit down. Don't stand. No. Why are you rubbing against the microphone and mucking up the recording? So just sit down. Oh dear. So after All Saints, we have Aqua again with another song, and that's that Turn Back Time that you mentioned. Just for 1 week.
From a film, I think. I think it was from Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow. I've never seen the film, but I'm aware it was from a film.
I have issues with Sliding Doors because, well, I just remember seeing it, and there was some really tenuous things that happened in it that just, it's the sort of thing you'd expect on a soap and you wouldn't mind. But and I know the person who wrote it was, although he was sort of, no, I don't know them, but I know that the person writing it was a kind of a famous person, but a first-time writer, and I kind of thought, that maybe if.
Was he an actor? Was he from Bread? Joey Boswell from Bread.
Yeah,
how random! How random is that, listeners?
I just kind of thought they could have worked this a bit better, and I went into writing mode. Even if you're not a famous writer, but if you've written a lot like I have, you're watching things. You do kind of think, well, actually, I think I would have. Maybe it's arrogant. I don't think it is arrogant because if you've written a lot, you've had to do make these decisions, and I just thought, it's gone. I know it's a sort of fantastic film in the plot, but they could have found a better way of doing some of the.
Is it like a science fiction-y, different lives, different times?
But it's something like if you miss a train, which is fine, but it was some of the actual specific plots later on. It wasn't the actual concept, which was an interesting idea. It was just some of the bits. But because it annoyed me so much, I've never watched it again, which is probably unfair. I probably should have watched it again, and in case I missed something. Or I do remember there being something very tenuous that was quite important. The later part of the story, but I know a lot of people enjoy it. So a lot of people can watch dramas without thinking, what would I do if I was a writer? But unfortunately, I can't. And I wouldn't even. If I was watching Sons and Daughters, I wouldn't even think twice because you expect soap opera plots in soap operas.
You do indeed, yes.
And it's like, fine, that's fine. It's fine that somebody's dead.
It's fine. It's fine that it was aliens that came down and yeah,
preferable,
it's fine.
Actually.
Yeah.
Then after Aqua, we have. Sorry, Aqua, we talked more about the film that the song was in. I think it's possible that your song was the best thing about that film. But after Aqua, we have All Saints with Under the Bridge again.
They came back.
Just for 1 week. A lot of people are coming back this year.
It's interesting. Just a question: Did we have download? Was it the first time that downloads had happened, or was it were we still physically?
Yeah, we could have managed downloads in '98. It would have taken about a week. I think we're a bit early for that. I remember when I was in Las Vegas in like late 2000, seeing DVDs, and may have even have bought one. Or there may have been the point where I started thinking, I think I'm going to start getting DVDs when I get home. I'm going to find a. So like 2001, my friends and I were thinking about buying DVD players. I think 1998 is quite sort of
a little bit too early. I think a lot of CD singles had the videos on them.
That's possible, yeah. But they were literally on them, and that didn't mean you had to be on the internet to play them and stuff. I remember buying a few songs, particularly because I'd seen the video on TV and they were good videos. And so after All Saints, we have it's only for 1 week. I'm surprised. It's the Tamperer featuring Maya. Feel It. Now is that the one about having a chimney on you?
No,
that's
a completely separate song. That's called I think that was called something like What You're Going to Look Like with a Chimney on Her. Feel It was. I think it was. I'm sure it had a Madonna sample, or it was the sample of the Jacksons. Do 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 do. Yeah, it was that. It was Jacksons, wasn't it?
That one. Yeah, I remember I was getting confused with the Chimney song.
The Chimney song.
I really don't understand. But after that, we have actually. Let's see. Did they have other hits? Did they have in case? They only had the one album. The album.
I think they had that one, and then there was the Chimney song, and then I think that was probably it for the Tamperer featuring. Was it Maya?
That's weird because the other singles number 10. If you buy this record, your life will be better.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, they all kind of sounded the same. They were like just same backing track, but with a different. Sounded quite threatening, though, didn't they? Though it's good. If you buy this record, this life will be better, or a chimney will fall on you.
Oh, was that a chimney one?
No,
no.
The chimney one was a completely separate one.
I don't see that listed at all, so I don't know what that.
Perhaps it was. If you buy this record, no, I don't know. And then it had a horrible bit where it slowed it down and went, bye. Yeah, what's she going to look like with a chimney on her? Was that the title of it?
Apparently, if you buy this record, it has a sample from Material Girl.
Oh, right, yes, yeah.
And, Jackson's song Feel It. And there's one called Hammer to the Heart, but it wasn't very big. But that was based on Gimme, Gimme, Gimme. So interesting that... because you kind of hear that Madonna sort of had to really beg to get. So obviously not quite as hard as it.
I think it all depended on if she'd written them or not, or co-written them, because I think some of kind of like her early stuff she might not have had writing credit for, so that kind of changed whether or not they needed permission. But I do know people used to have to like ask, she had to listen to the song first and then say yeah or no. Controlling.
Very strange. I don't see. Did we just imagine the chimney song? Because it's not.
No, it definitely. I'm sure it was called "What's She Gonna Look Like with a Chip?" What's she gonna look like with a chimney on her?
But I'm sure it was the Tamper. But it's not listed. Maybe we'll just come across it when we get to it, and it'll all be made clear. Because Maya, I thought maybe it was just Maya by herself, but she doesn't seem to have a page about. She doesn't seem to have a career by herself.
They were one of these kind of conglomerations. They were like it says Italian dance music band. They were like Black Box and people like them. There was like they had a front person, and you didn't really see the sort of knob twiddlers. That didn't sound right when I thought it before I said it. But yeah, I'm sure they definitely did. It definitely was.
Here we go. Oh, it says that I think it might be part of that it might be part of Feel It, because I've typed in the chimney on her song and it brings up Feel It. So maybe
perhaps it was there.
I think it's part of Feel It, but how or why I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh dear, it's very tiring. This to us. It's all these things you keep finding out. It hurts the brain.
It was. I have clarified it. It was part. It was a line in "Feel It." Which is. It was kind of like.
Still makes no sense.
I think it was like a street slur from America, kind of like I don't agree with this lady that you're going out with, and I wonder what would she look like if she had a chimney land on her.
Yeah.
Which often happens.
That's not very friendly. Our next number one is for 2 weeks is Bewitched with Sailor V. B Star Witched, of course.
B Star Witched.
Or Asterix.
Coincidentally, I have this very day I have watched a film that featured a modern day film that features Bewitched. That song. It's something with Rebel Wilson in it, where she plays a cheerleader who had been in a coma for 20 years after a very unfortunate cheerleading flip, and comes back 20 years later, wakes up, and I quite liked it. It was a bit cheesy. It was a little bit, La Bernard, something like that.
It's not my favourite Bewitched single. It's a little bit especially when they start doing the jigs.
Yes.
But, we will get to my favourite Bewitched single later this year, so I won't say anything. Were they connected to Boyzone, or because they have relatives?
Because two of them, the twin sisters, Sinead and Kiwi, are sisters with Shane from Boyzone.
I think they were the ones who did. I think they did their own group.
I think it was called Barbarella or something like that.
Yeah, I think I quite liked
It actually was quite good. They tried to be a bit strange, didn't they? They wore like sort of like seer type wigs, and yeah,
a bit more like something like what's her name? Not Elena's Attic. What's it called?
Elaine's Attic.
No, there's that group in the North.
Alicia's
Attic. Yeah, they sort of were a bit more like Alicia's Attic.
I love that somewhere there's a band called Elaine's Attic. What's in Elaine's Attic? Oh, just things.
just old memories. I wish we didn't have to discuss the next one, so we won't for very long, and we can probably get away with it because it's just a re-release. It's Badil, Skinner and the Lightning Steeds with 3 Lions, 98 for 3 weeks. We already talked about them in 96.
Yeah, we won't talk about
how we feel betrayed by the Lightning Steeds. Well, next up we have Billy, because we want to for 1 week.
Okay, not my favourite. These kind of like pop acts tended to have quite a novelty first single, didn't they? Like Bewitched and Billy, because I want to. And she had better stuff as her short career progressed.
I've just been watching. It feels almost improper that feels like there should be more years in between. But I've just watched all of Diary of a Cool Girl.
Oh, okay.
Which she made like less than 10 years after. But she looked like a little girl when she did like her first singles, and yet she doesn't look like she looks like somebody who's much older. But she was, but only 10 years older.
Shockingly, didn't she start? I think she got her record deal because she'd been used as the face of Smash Hits magazine, TV adverts, kind of like blowing bubbles and stuff. And they thought, I wonder if she can sing, and she could. So they gave her a record deal, and the rest is history.
I noticed. Again, I've gone off on my tangent here. I noticed in the later seasons of Diary of a Cool Girl, I feel like she'd been watching a lot of Sex and the City, because if in Sex and the City as Carrie or Sarah Jessica Parker, as Carrie got more famous, like she'd go to parties or she'd be given more shoes, and she had a way of kind of over the top acting when she was really excited about being given some shoes or something, and I noticed that Billy's character on Diary of a Cool Girl she started doing Sarah Jessica Parker acting, and because she got a book deal and was having success, and I thought she's been watching Sex and the City. She's doing Sarah Jessica Parker acting here.
Have you not seen her in her latest TV show, which is actually really good? It's called I Hate Susie or something like that, and it's really good because it's kind of like a wink to her kind of past as a Doctor Who actress and a pop singer and all that kind of stuff, which is quite clever. You watch it and you kind of think, I bet a lot of this is based on reality, actually.
I did see it, but I didn't get on with it so well. But I don't know if that's because, well, I might edit this bit out. There's that whole episode where she's just about her having a big old wank. And I'm like, come on, padding.
Yes, I do. Yes, she set a day aside.
I was enjoying it, and then it kind of got, come on, we could have skipped this one. So I'm coming to mind. I don't know if I'd watch the second season, but anyway, I might not keep that bit in deals. We'll see about that. And obviously, when they be Doctor Who girls, it's the last thing you want to be thinking about.
It is, having a big old wank. I genuinely, I'm not a Doctor Who fan, but I did watch it when she was in it. And I think there's an episode where they're in space, and he presses a button to play some music from that time period. And I was so hoping that it was going to be a Billie Piper song, like meta irony, but it was a Britney Spears song. It was Oops, I Did It Again or something like that. They missed a trick with that. They could have played.
They did have a wedding in Neighbours It was the first gay wedding, I think, in Australian TV a few years ago. And when they went up the aisle, they were playing Suddenly, which had been the music that was in the background when Kylie and Jason when Scott and Charlene got married. And also they did a thing where they were having a karaoke night, and one of the songs that came up was Don't You Want to Make Me Feel Good, which Stephen Dennis had done.
Oh, my guilty pleasure.
And Paul Robinson got to say, I thought that was pretty good. What do you think? I don't know why everyone was frowning. Obviously, he wasn't saying it. He had sung it. But I thought that's very, very cheeky. But maybe.
It is, yeah. It's blurring reality.
There was a Doctor Who story from the original era when Sylvester McCoy was the Doctor, and it was set at the same time. It was set in November 1963 when the show actually started, and it was supposed to happen at the same time and it cut to this TV screen, and the voiceover said, tonight a new TV science fiction series is starting called and then it cut to the next scene. But yeah, so it's funny when they do those things. So after Billy, we have. Don't think I was ever a fan. I don't see what you think. Another Level, Freak Me.
No, I didn't like them. I think I liked one song of theirs. The Freak Me was a cover of I think it was a Jodeci track.
But that's where Dane Bowers came from.
He did, yes. I think again, they were very short-lived as well. They didn't last particularly very long. I think the song that I liked from them was something called Bomb Diggy or something like that, which is it's a dreadful name for a song.
Yeah, they've done apparently. Yeah, they only lasted from 1995 to 2000, because by 2000 he was doing that cover. He was doing that song with Victoria.
He was, yes. Shut Up and Forget About It, or something like that. Shut Up and Forget About It. No, it wasn't. What was it? It was that, wasn't it?
It's the one that was up against Spiller and Sophie Ellis-Bextor. They had Bomb Diggity was actually their last single. All of their singles, they had about 10 singles. I can't count because I've got a cat on me, but all of their singles but one were in the top 10, and that Bomb Diggy you mentioned wasn't a flop, so I guess they fell out or something rather than sort of being unsuccessful, or perhaps they weren't selling albums, just singles, or have an album in 2002, so don't quite know. Oh, that was the Greatest Hits album. Oh well. But I guess they came off the back of Take That and Boyzone. They were sort of. I think
they were supposed to be a cooler version. I think they were supposed to kind of be more like an American, an American R&B type group. Yeah.
Well, after that we have again for 1 week we've got Jamiroquai with Deeper Underground, which I'm a bit two minds about Jamiroquai, but I think that might be one I don't mind too much.
That was from the. Godzilla film, wasn't it?
That might be with the thing that had a sample from something else, or it might be another one of his which had a sort of a riff out of Led Zeppelin or something.
I quite like that.
Yeah, because I'm a bit two minds sometimes about his stuff, but it's not quite my cup of tea. But I think maybe did like that one. Right, where have we got to? After that, we have another Spice Girls #1 for 2 weeks. We got Viva Forever.
With the very strange video.
Is that the one that's animated?
Yes, with the weird kind of spice fairies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is this?
I think she'd done one by then, and they were like, "Oh, we have to release it, but we can't do a video. Let's get some."
Spice fairies.
Let's get some spice fairies in. Is it like giant Kinder eggs or something like that? It was an odd video.
Yeah. I can sort of remember it. It's one of, not necessarily a fan of their ballads, but that is one of the ballads I don't mind.
I do like Viva Forever.
Yeah. After that, we have another Boyzone #1 for 3 weeks. Oh goodness!
What were they thinking? What was the public thinking?
Yeah. No Matter What.
No matter what. That was from
Whistle Down the Wind.
Yes, an Andrew Lloyd Webber thing.
Yeah. And it was also written by Jim Well, it was written by him and Jim Steinman, who who did lots of Meatloafy type songs. Yeah, not a favourite, Deals.
No,
not a favourite. You wouldn't like it. I won't play it to you. Ick might sing it to you. We'll see. Ask him nicely. Shall we ask him nicely? He's thinking about it. No, you could sing it. You probably sing it better. It's not really even Boyzone's fault. It's just I don't think I like the song in any form. I feel like I have seen that musical, and I just don't like that song.
It was just a bit whiny and a bit. Yeah. I'm sure they're lovely people, but they just never floated my boat.
Yeah, what's his name? I've forgotten who. I've forgotten what the lead singer's called.
Ronan Keating.
Keating. He's been quite good on Top of the Pops. He's got. I guess he's done radio, hasn't he? Like radio presenting and stuff. He had. When I've seen him on the Top of the Pops documentaries talking about. He seems sort of quite likable. After that, we have Manic Street Preachers with "If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next." Not a title that it doesn't fit in very well with it. Although I do like the Manic Street Preachers, and I do quite like. I think even my mum quite liked that one. I was quite surprised.
They were kind of massively trendy, weren't they? I never really got into Manic Street Preachers.
Well, their previous album, Everything Must Go, it had a lot of top 10 hits on. That was from sort of 96, 97, and I think they were at that stage where their singles, anything released was but it'd been quite a slow. I mean, they'd had the odd hit, and they'd always had top 40 mostly, but this was the period where they were actually having number one hits. I think in a way they deserved it more than some of the people Oasis. But there we go. Following that, we have another All Saints, and it's Booty Call for 1 week.
Oh, I loved a bit of Booty Call. It's a booty call.
Yeah. You can tell that they're aiming for the States because
definitely.
I don't know anybody over here that called it a booty call, but
booty
don't
call.
really use the word booty for a start.
No, never, ever. Strange. Apart from the boot of your car.
Yeah. So you're calling me someone you've kidnapped and stuck in a boot. And then we have. I don't know if this is his first number one. It feels like it shouldn't be, but it's from his second studio album. It's Millennium by Robbie Williams for 1 week.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's had big hits up to this point, but the thing we said last time, maybe that Angels was a top 10 hit, but it wasn't like a number one, but it feels like it should have been.
Yeah. Was Millennium? Well, obviously Millennium was a number one hit. That was, yeah. I don't mind it. I don't hate on it. It's
So that's the one that had the James Bond sample from...
Yes. Yeah. It was kind of his attempt at kind of courting James Bond to kind of say, look, I can do this.
I mean, considering some of the awful songs that have been James Bond themes in the last 10 years, I kind of wish they'd answered his call. But
we're looking at you, Billie Eilish.
and the one before that I didn't like either. And
was that Adele? Was Adele before?
There was the gay guy.
Sam Smith.
Sam Smith. Adele was before that, but even that Adele one was trying to copy like
Shirley Bassey
type ones. Wasn't impressed. Robbie Williams, he had a number 2 with Freedom, number 2 with Old Before I Die, number 8 with Lazy Days, number 14 South of the Border. The weird thing is, Angels was number 4, so 2 of his previous singles, like Old Before I Die, for instance, which I can't imagine many people remember, was actually a bigger chart position than Angels, which is kind of...
Oh, right, okay.
Then Let Me Entertain You was number 3, which I think I'd probably prefer to Millennium. And then No Regrets, number 4, Strong 4, She's the One. Well, we can't talk about some of these because we got to talk about these years in future episodes. But yeah, so it was his first number one, but he'd done pretty well, and it's kind of surprising that some of his other ones hadn't got to number one as well. So after Robbie Williams, we have Mel B featuring Missy Elliott, I Want You Back.
Oh, she tried, didn't she, Mel B? She tried her best. I heard a rumor that actually, so I remember it coming out at the time, and they were all like bigging it up and saying, because they hadn't split up at that point, they were still together, but they were like doing like solo stuff. And Mel B was kind of like bigging up and saying, "Oh yeah, Missy phoned me personally and said I want you on this track." But then I'd heard that she'd approached Shaznay Lewis from All Saints first because she thought they were cooler. Now whether that's just like pop history gossip, I don't know, but I do quite like the fact that Missy Elliott perhaps had like a Rolodex of pop stars and went through them all, and they all went, "Oh, so I was busy, Missy," and then she was like, "Oh, but better bring Mel then, just see." And she answered on the first ring, "Yes, I'll do it."
She turns up in the last episode of Diary of a Cool Girl, just in a party scene, and she's allowed to say like one line.
Missy Elliott or Mel B?
Sorry, Mel B.
Oh,
it's sort of what she did. I must have. I think one of the reasons I rewatched it was that I felt like I hadn't seen maybe the last season or some of it, and I certainly didn't remember seeing Mel B in the last episode.
I liked that song. I liked it. It was good. It was launched into Kath and Kit. It was different. It was nice. It was unusual. And it was. It was quite. It was a good song. Flicker, flicker, flicker. I believe that was one of the.
It's not an original song. It's not a cover of
No.
I would remember if I heard it, but the next number one is another Bewitched single, and this is probably my favourite Bewitched single. It's Roller Coaster.
Oh, controversial.
Yeah. And there's no Irish dancing in it.
There isn't, no.
And it follows. I think we probably discussed in previous episodes that. I like Sleeper, and in an album that they did, which did around the time when they were stopping having sort of hits, they did an album track called Roller Coaster, which I also still like. So for a while, I had quite a recent playlist which had Bewitched, Roller Coaster, and Sleeper.
Oh, and didn't the Red Hot Chili Peppers have a song called Roller Coaster? Roller Coaster. That was that. Yeah.
And didn't either Boyzone or whatnot. I've forgotten his name again.
Ronan
did he hear a song called Life is a Roller Coaster?
Yes, he did. And so didn't this is a very random conversation. Didn't Simply Red have a song about a roller coaster? No, they were on a roller coaster in the video. Forget that. I got confused.
Well, moving on, we have Billy with Girlfriend for 1 week. I don't remember as well as
that was. Do you have a girlfriend?
That one.
That one, yeah.
That was a bit irritating too.
It was, yes.
Then we have Space Dust, Gym and Tonic. GYM. That was for 1 week. I think they're they had two singles. They had another single called Let's Get Down with an exclamation mark. The following year they got to number 20, but
no recollection of that at all.
Apparently, it was a cover of Bob Sinclair's single Gym Tonic, and that song had been offered to Jane Fonda, but I can't imagine it was offered to Jane Fonda.
Jane Fonda, the actress?
Yeah, I can't imagine it had been offered to her like in the late 90s. But there we go. I guess depending on when she was, I would have thought more on the 80s when she was doing her Keep Fit videos and things. But we've got three more number one singles in the UK. We've got, I'm sure, surprised this doesn't come. Oh no, it was a number one for quite a long time. We've got Cher with Believe for 7 weeks. So that is the longest running number one and possibly one of the biggest selling as well.
Oh, bless her. And she was 52 when that was a hit, which is nowadays would not happen at all.
And it's not her last top 40 hit.
I think she had quite a few from that album. She was Strong Enough. I think that was a big hit from that album, and a couple of others I think she had.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those songs that sort of kickstarts your, sort of, because she'd had that run of hits in the mid to late 80s and into the 90s, and then they sort of kicked it on again.
And it kicked off that whole vocoder thing, didn't it? There was on every single record for a good year afterwards because of Cher.
Actually, it's probably unfair. I kind of felt that perhaps she'd sort of, she'd had that run of hits in the 80s and early 90s, and that there'd been a bit of a gap in this. Actually, that's a bit unfair because she'd had Love Can Be Able to Bridge with other people, like in 95, and then she'd had One by One in 96. So this was just the next album on, really. She hadn't really
she hadn't disappeared. It wasn't,
I kind of felt in retrospect that she had, but she hadn't. So apologies, Cher, you were just continuing.
You've always been there for us, Cher.
Because you're right, Strong Enough, although that's in 99, was number 5, although that wasn't the hit in the US that Believe was number 1 pretty much everywhere. But Strong Enough was only number 57 in America.
Oh.
All or Nothing.
Yes, I remember that. It was very dance, that album, wasn't it? It was very pop dance. Cher, which I don't think she's ever really shook off since. She's kind of kept it. Although I believe she doesn't like it. She doesn't like any of her stuff.
Her last big hit in the UK was The Music's No Good Without You for number 8 in 2001.
Oh yeah, from another. Yeah, I think that was from.
It's for an album called Closer to the Truth.
Yes, and again, it followed very much the same pattern as Believe. I think very dancey pop.
So where were we? So the penultimate number 1 of 1998 is another Bewitched single. And it's To You I Belong. Was that the sort of ballady, more sort of?
Yes, and I think they did it with To You. I'm sure they did it with kind of like a South African choir. I'm sure it was Bewitched featuring something. It had like that sort of like African choir in it.
Unless it was on a particular TV performance where it doesn't credit anything else, but it's possible that it was or in the video or they just didn't get credited, whoever else it was. The last number 1 of 1998 in the UK is the Spice Girls with Goodbye.
The poignant one, all about Jezza.
Is that the
Yeah, look for the rainbow in every cloud or something like that. And they were all pregnant, I think, or 2 of them were pregnant in the video.
It was the group's first song without Jerry.
Yeah,
actually, she wasn't in it at all.
She wasn't in it at all. I have quite an amusing story about this song. Not that many years ago, a couple of years ago, I went to see a Spice Girls tribute show, and when they played Goodbye, the girl that was playing Jerry up until then, there was a set of steps that she walked up, and then the light just went out. Now there was nowhere for her to go. She just stood there until the song finished and all the lights went out, and then she came off and walked off. It was. I think they were kind of like going, "Goodbye, Jerry. Goodbye."
Reminds me of what's her name? Penelope Keith on Morecambe Wise, where she's coming down a staircase. She's all dressed up and she's going down the staircase, but then she gets halfway down and they haven't built the rest of the staircase. And then Eric and Eddie have to kind of help her down. And she's sort of got her legs flailing everywhere. So I'm just going to dip into see a few other singles that were big. Lighthouse Family, who I was never a big fan of, but they did have some big hits that year. High.
They did. They were pleasant, weren't they? They weren't offensive. They were just, doodly do. They just kind of were just there.
Probably a bit young to appreciate that sort of. Well, I think I'm still too young to appreciate that sort of thing. But yeah. there are a lot of. I was thinking of this earlier. Catatonia, Mulder and Scully, number 3.
Oh, okay.
That they were sort of doing pretty well.
Now, Steps were here in that year. They had some big singles, but not. But oh well, yeah, they did. They had the number 1 with Heartbeat and Tragedy, that AA sided single
in '98. Why didn't we?
I don't know.
It's been swallowed up by time. According to my thing, I think you are technically right, but also I'm technically right because it's one of those things where they were number 1. They probably released a single in December, but they were actually number 1 on the 9th of January 1999.
Oh, it was a thing over.
A while. It wasn't an immediate hit. That's not even early Steps. That's sort of middle.
Period. It is, yes, yeah. Because I kind of thought Steps came before like Bewitched and people like that. I didn't.
They had top 10 hits and not number 1 so much.
Oh, okay. There was Savage Garden. They were around.
Yes, Truly Madly Deeply, number 4. And Will Mellor, wasn't he from?
He was from Hollyoaks.
Number 5, When I Need You. Is that just
a cover of the
Leo Sayer song?
Yes, yeah.
Radiohead, No Surprises. That's the one that they always used to come up in the Royal Family, I think.
Right.
That she used to sing, or somebody used to sing to the baby. Chumbawamba, Amnesia, number 2. I didn't realise they had more than 1.
I don't know
they've been around a long time, but I don't remember them having more than 1 top 10 hit. But what else have we got? Yeah,
there was the awful Horny song by Moose T versus Hot and Juicy.
Yeah.
And then I think didn't Tom Cruise? No, he didn't cover it. Although that would have been quite. Tom Jones didn't he? No, he did Sex Bomb. I'm very confused over these.
We're talking about Tom Jones. We've got the Ballad of Tom Jones by Space with Keris Matthews.
Oh, I liked that one.
Tom Jones.
Very quirky.
Thing about was Keris. People who don't know Keris Matthews. Yes, deals. Just telling people. I'm explaining. I know you think people might be confused. Come on. I'll tell them about Keris Matthews in a minute. Keris Matthews was the lead singer from Catatonia. Yes. All right.
Indeed.
I had their first album, Way Beyond Blue, in about '96, which had a song called Lost Cat, and it had a song called You've Got a Lot to Answer For, and it was a growing hit, but their big hits were from this album. But I kind of feel like they peaked with that first album, and then their success came with later albums that weren't quite as good. And also, I think possibly her voice. I presume that she smoked, and I feel like her voice wasn't as nice in the later album. It wasn't quite as. It was more husky or raspy.
Yes, I think she's gone on to kind of do like jazz stuff. In her later career, but I liked Road Rage. I think it was probably because they sang in a Welsh accent. She sang in a Welsh accent, which was a novelty.
This is also the year that Robin, who was big in the noughties and beyond, but she did have a single. She had "Show Me Love."
I love that song.
She got to number 8, and then she vanished for like 10 years.
I think she was kind of tipped to be a kind of a Britney Spears type pop star, and a lot of her early stuff was produced by Max Martin. So there was "Show Me Love," and there was one that went. No, that was I'm starting to sing "Girlfriend" now by Billie Piper. I'm so old.
Oh dear. We've got some of the later singles of Natalie Imbruglia, "Big Mistake." That was number 2.
Okay, right. I see here I've got "Together Again" by Janet Jackson. That was a number 4 hit.
Which is also this is when Texas did that "Say What You Want" with the Wu-Tang Clan, which was more sort of. I'm surprised how close that is to the original. It wasn't that only the year before or so that they'd sort of done that song, and I can't remember whether this was like a quick, having had those success, they decided to release the greatest hits, and this was a sort of a way of reviving or revisiting a recent hit, but in a different style. Deal, will you sit down? Either sit down or don't sit down. Thank you. Oh, sorry, children. Got M People with Angel Street, which I don't really remember.
Angel Street. Yeah.
The reason I've tried to hide it. What else have we got? We've got Cooler Shaker.
It's uncanny. That was almost like Heather Small
was
in the room.
We've got Cooler Shaker, Sound of Drums, number 3. Road Rage that you mentioned, number 5. Last Thing on My Mind by Steps, number 6.
Perfect 10 by Beautiful South. That was a number 2 hit. That was a.
Ray of Light was number 2 by Madonna. Push It by Garbage, number 9. Dreams by The Cause. That was Fleetwood Mac.
It was, yes. And we have to refer to them as a beautiful cause. That's there in their contract, but not Jim.
That's from Lee and Herring, isn't it? They used to do that. Oh yes, Horny 98, number 2. Oh, does that mean it had been a hit?
Oh, had it been a bit before?
Or maybe it hadn't been a hit first time. Embrace, Come Back to What You Know, number 6. They were sort of like Oasis wannabes. Probably unfair on them. Vindaloo by Fat Les, number 2. Which was obviously another football year. Yeah. Lost in Space by Lighthouse Family, number 6. Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys, number 5. What else we got? I Think I'm Paranoid by Garbage, number 9. This was the sort of time of their second album. I think I saw them live around this time. Well, I saw them live during the first album and second album. Life is a Flower by Ace of Base, number 5.
I like that song. That was perky.
Yeah. Music Sounds Better With You by Stardust, number 2. Cleopatra, I Want You Back, number 4. Beautiful Cause, What Can I Do by number 3. My Weakness Is None of Your Business, again, Embrace, number 9. Jennifer Page, Crush, number 4.
One hit wonder, wasn't it, that?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I quite like Crush. I remember Jarvis Cocker saying how much he liked Crush, and I think it was I was at that time where I'd been listening to Britpop, and then things like Britney Spears were coming up, and some of the more popular stuff that I was actually really liking, and I was going, am I going to have to tell my friends where I like them more, that I like both, and then I think it was people like Jarvis Cocker saying they like poppy stuff, and Travis doing cover versions of like Baby One More Time and stuff.
Oh, that paved the way.
It helped to be able to say, it's just a good song. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith, number 4. My Favourite Mistake by Sheryl Crow, number 9. I think that's the song that's. And I do like a bit of Sheryl Crow. That sort of like that one, and some of her more less perky ones. Smoke by Natalie Imbruglia, number 5. Even Cliff Richard had a top 10 hit. Can't Keep This Feeling In.
We wish he would, but no recollection of that whatsoever.
No, and this must be around the time that Culture Club reformed. This is when I Just Want to Be Loved, number 4.
Oh, I liked that. I remember that, yes.
Thank You by Alanis Morissette at number 5. That's that funny one where she's like thanking everybody.
Yeah, naked. Quite often, some of these songs have a French and Saunders skit that go along with it, and that has a hilarious French and Saunders skit that goes along with it. And I can't think of it without that. I think it features Jennifer Saunders with various coloured merkins.
It's funny enough, all the sort of ridiculous things that she's thinking about. Always very easy to go and invent your own version. Right. We ought to look at the albums because we've still got to nip over to America. There aren't as many number ones in America, and they're not necessarily as varied as so 1998 albums in the UK, we don't have to stop and talk about these for ages, but we've got The Verve Urban Hymns, 6 weeks. Then we've got James Horner, and that's Titanic music from the motion picture, and that's under classical. So that probably does not include Fellini. But that was for 1 week. Then we've got The Verve again for 1 week. Then we've got James Horner again for 2 weeks. Then we've got Madonna Ray of Light for 2 weeks. Celine Dion, Let's Talk About Love, number 1. Sorry, for 1 week. And then we've got The Best of James by James, number 1. They were sort of having... They feel like they had a bit of a... they'd gone away for a few, and they started having hits again for a bit. I quite like some of the later 90s James. Probably more than the... Well, I don't know. I quite like James. Then we have, for 1 week, this is Hardcore by Pulp. I was a big Pulp fan. This was the album that followed their really big album. I think this was at the point where they discovered that fame wasn't quite as easy to deal with, or they were beginning to get the party was coming to an end. But they still had quite a few hits off that album. Then we have Robbie Williams' Life Through a Lens for 2 weeks. That was his first album. But I think he was releasing albums almost one a year. But then a lot of those Britpop bands did that in the early 90s.
Yeah, I kind of recall that he was kind of, until Angels, he was kind of on the verge of being dumped by his record company because I don't think it was as massive as they were expecting it to be.
Then we've got Massive Attack, Mezzanine for 2 weeks. Catatonia, International Velvet for 1 week. Garbage version 2.0 for 1 week. Simply Red, Blue for 1 week. I think that was a covers album. Doesn't say that it is, but I did notice that he'd released a couple of singles this year that were covers, so maybe. Then Boyzone, Where We Belong for 1 week. Simply Red again. Embrace, The Good Will Out for 1 week. The Beautiful Cause, Talk on Corners for 1 week. 5, but the album is called 5, but with 5.
Oh, yes. I liked a bit of 5.
Is that really 5? It's really 5 Ive then.
Is it 5 with the number 5?
It's number 5. But then it's got Ive as well, so it's actually 5 Ive.
Ive.
Then we've got The Beautiful Cause again, Talk on Corners. Then we've got Beastie Boys, Hello Nasty for 1 week. Then we've got Jane McDonald.
Really?
Yeah. With her self-titled album for 3 weeks.
I did not realise she was. I know she was, but I didn't realise she was in the public eye then. I thought
being the start of it, or must have been around the time. I don't know quite when that TV series.
The cruise wasn't it that she was on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it does say that it was sort of that year, so it's probably all around that time. Then we have Talk on Corners by The Cause again for 3 weeks. This must be one of the biggest selling albums. Then we have Where We Belong by Boyzone again. Then we have The Cause again for another 1 week. And then we have Manic Street Preachers, This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours, 3 weeks. Then we have Phil Collins Hits for 1 week. The Beautiful South Quench for 2 weeks. Was this the first album they did after Carry On Up the Charts?
I'm not sure.
Because that was sort of because I wondered whether this because that was such a big album.
It was with Jackie Abbott, wasn't it? That the female singer.
I sort of followed them at the start, and then their album 0898 in '92 was like it's one of those. It's the only album I've ever heard of theirs where I liked every single track, and it's so. Although I like other songs they've done, that's sort of Carry On Up the Charts was '94. So this, they had the Blue Is the Colour in '96. So this was like the second. Yes, you like The Beautiful South, do you? Right. Which one's your favourite? Well, she's your favourite. Which one? No, you can't try now. Old Red Eyes is back, isn't it? After what it's up. Yes, it is, because that's what you look like when you come back from the pub. No, I'm sorry, I'm being rude. Then we have I've Been Expecting You by Robbie Williams. So he's already on to his second album. For 1 week. Then The Best of You 2, 1980 to 1990 for 1 week. And then released for the Christmas market, I imagine, George Michael's Lady and Gentleman, The Best of George Michael.
Oh, okay.
For 8 weeks. So that's the UK. So going to nip over to the States. So we don't have to talk about these for ages because some of them we'll have talked about, but we start 98 in the US with Something About the Way You Look Tonight, Candle in the Wind by Elton John.
Oh, okay.
For 2 weeks. I think we'd forgotten about that by that point. We were into Perfect Day and other things but it was at number one for a long time, but it didn't last into 98 like it did in the States. Then we have Truly Madly Deeply by Savage Garden for 2 weeks, which
I didn't realise they'd made it in the States.
Then we have Together Again by Janet. Is she just calling herself Janet at this stage? Not Janet.
Yes, I think she dropped that quite a long time prior to this.
Then we've got Nice and Slow by Usher. Was that the one that did well in the UK? I can't. It got to number 24 in the UK. Then, what about that Janet Jackson song?
There was recently, because of the Janet Jackson documentary came out, she was talking about the making of the video for Together Again, and she was saying that she borrowed one of Michael Jackson's giraffes, because the video has a lot of animals in it. It was kind of like sort of like African theme, and she said it ran off, and she was absolutely petrified because she thought, I'm going to have to ring him and say, Michael, I've lost one of your giraffes. Fortunately, they found it. I don't know how you would lose a giraffe, though.
They don't tend to run that far when you.
No, perhaps it just put a scarf on and disguised itself and was just there, and they hadn't realised.
Hiding from the press.
Hiding in plain sight.
Apparently, Together Again was number 4 in the UK. Then we have My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion for 2 weeks. Then Getting Jiggy With It by Will Smith for 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
That got to number 3 in the UK.
Getting Jiggy With It. No.
Then we have All My Life by K-Sai and JoJo.
Casey and JoJo, your granddad.
Okay. Don't know deals.
From 40 years ago.
Yeah. That really famous double act. To get to number 8 in the UK. So I might find I do know it. Then we have for 4 weeks Too Close by Next.
I don't know. I think they might have been a boy, like an R&B boy band type.
Yeah. The only Next I know sells clothes deals.
Oh, I know. Gone downhill though over the years.
Got to number 24 in the UK. Then My All by Mariah Carey.
Mm-hmm.
That one. It got to number 4. It was a hit over here. Then Too Close for another week. Then, now this was a big one. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 weeks, we have The Boy Is Mine by Brandy and Monica.
Oh, okay. It was a hit in the UK.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise it was such a massive hit in the States.
Yeah, it was number 2 in the UK. Yeah, I mean that's really big compared to anything. Although Too Close, I don't know, Too Close is marked as the best performing single, even though it wasn't as long as number 1 as anywhere near as long as The Boy Is Mine. So that now we're already into September. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith. Got to.
That was from a film, wasn't it? That was from. Is it Armageddon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Armageddon. That was number 1 for 4 weeks. It did pretty well in the UK, but I think we said number 4 or something. Then 1 Week by Bare Naked Ladies. Bare Naked Ladies did have a hit, but I don't think it wasn't that one, was it? Well,
I think it was, wasn't it? It was like 1 week, and I looked at you. That kind. Yeah, it was.
That's number 5 in the UK. I remember they'd had at least one hit in the UK. Then we have 3. Oh, did they fall out? We've got The First Night by Just Monica for 3 weeks. So.
Oh, okay. Well, they were both separate artists, Monica and
Brandy. Then we have. I think I've gone off. Deals have gone all funny. I don't want to miss a thing by Aerosmith was first, and then for 2 weeks it was The First Night by Monica. Then it was 1 week by Bare Naked Ladies, and then it was The First Night for 3 weeks by Monica. So I've got them mucked up because of the 2 periods where Monica was number 1. So.
And that's not Monica from Friends. That's Monica, the solo singing artist
who likes who Brandy also sung. Then for 2 weeks we have Do Wop That Thing by Lauryn Hill.
Yeah. The good song.
Then we have Lately by Divine, but presumably not the Divine from the.
Not the drag queen.
I know she'd
been long dead by then.
Yeah, it was an American R&B girl group.
Oh, okay.
But Lately is the song.
I wonder if it was a cover of Lisa Scott. No, it would be too early for that.
The last number 1 of 1998 in the US is I'm Your Angel by R. Kelly and Celine Dion.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's a strange pairing.
Strange pairing. 4 weeks. And let's see whether we even knew about that over here. Got to number 3.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
I think if you're not into that person or that act, some of it just passes you by, doesn't it? Even though it was a big hit, I have no recollection of it at all.
Now, very quickly, the big albums in the US were Sevens by Garth Brooks, Let's Talk About Love by Celine Dion, Titanic, the James Horner soundtrack. I mean, that's probably the biggest. That was from January to May. That was number 1. Sort of late January to early May. Not going to count it. They don't tell it. You have to sit there counting it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then Before These Crowded Streets by the Dave Matthews Band, who's one of those people I've always heard people in America talk about, but I don't think they were ever that big over here. Although they may have sold albums. Sometimes bands who aren't that well known over here do still sell a lot of albums. They don't have big singles. Then the Limited Series by Garth Brooks. It's Dark and Hell is Hot by DMX. I thought that might be a group, but it's actually the stage name of one person.
Oh, okay.
City of Angels soundtrack. It's from the film MP to Last Don by Master P.
So hip, so down with the.
He's a rapper. Then City of Angels soundtrack again for a couple more weeks. Armageddon, the album soundtrack.
Didn't City of Angels have a big single? It was, I'm sure it was in the arms of the Angels by, I can't remember her name. That was like the big single from that out, because I think City of Angels was with Meg Ryan and somebody. John Travolta? No, that's just a name I've just plucked out of the air.
I see a man in the poster but he's sitting behind Meg Ryan, and he's got his head sort of turned down. So it does have people like Bono, or no, it has people like U2, Paula Cole, Alanis Morissette.
Paula Cole, I think that was it, In the Arms of the Angels.
Um,
In the Arms of the Angels. A very cheerful song.
So let's go. I don't think I'm going to go. I'm not going to download that. I'm not tempted to. Are you? You can get it. Anyway, sorry, just having a conversation. Then we have Armageddon, the album soundtrack. Then we have Hello Nasty by Beastie Boys. The Game is to be sold, not to be told by Snoop Dogg. Follow the Leader by Korn. I think they had a number. Korn, didn't they have that rolling song?
I don't know. Did they have masks on? Korn. Is it Korn?
And somebody had, or was that Slipknot had masks? The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill by Lauryn Hill for a few weeks. Mechanical Animals by Marilyn Manson. I think that's the album I bought of Marilyn Manson. It's because he looks all scary on the cover. Well, he always looks scary, really. And he's one of those people where I liked a couple of singles, but should probably never have bought an album.
Yeah.
Quite liked, because he was a bit like a shoutier sort of T-Rex for the late 90s. I mean, that's basically what it was. For all the controversial, he was basically that sort of, he was quite basic sort of poppy metal. Then we have Volume 2, Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z. Supposed Former Infatuation Junkie by Alanis Morissette, which was the album that followed the really big one. And again, I probably should never have bought that album because I never played it half as much as I played that big one. And it only really had that thank you on it, which was a bit questionable anyway. But trouble is, if somebody does an album and you love it, it's a bit like Tori Amos. I liked one of her albums, and then I bought the next one. I never played it half as much as I played the one that was really big. And then the last big album in the States was Double Live by Garth Brooks.
Well, they loved a bit of Garth Brooks in America, didn't they?
Yeah. So there we go. So before we finish. Well, I've got two things to say before we finish. The first thing is, so when we talk about 1999, the names that you'll hear mentioned are particularly in the UK are Chef, Steps, Fatboy Slim, 911, The Offspring, Armin van Helden, Blondie, Lenny Kravitz, Britney Spears, Boyzone, Bewitched, Mr. Oizo, Martine McCutcheon, Westlife, Backstreet Boys, Boyzone, Shanks and Bigfoot, Baz Luhrmann, S Club 7, Venga Boys, ATB, Ricky Martin, Ronan Keating, Westlife. Gosh, this is a long list. This must be another year.
It is. I want to do the Adina from Abpub. Names, sweetie, names.
We've got Jerry Halliwell, Lou Bega, Venga Boys, Eiffel 65, Christina Aguilera. Yes, Robbie Williams, Ramju Project. Oh, that's that King of My Castle.
It is the King of My Castle.
That's the one. I kind of feel like that and the Chimney on My Head one.
Yes, very much. Kind of similar setups, I think.
But listeners, if you're thinking that you're looking forward to this episode about 1999, there's something I need to tell you. Something I need to break to you. It's actually been recorded and has been available for about 3 years. Yes, that's true. Now, don't ask me why, but the second time that Lee and I spoke for the show, I said, let's talk about music. And I randomly picked 1999. I don't know why, but I did. So we've now sort of, because of course I used to do the music with Nick, and we stopped that in 94, and Lee and I have done 95 now to 98, and 99 is already out. And then, so next time that we speak, we'll be talking about 2000. But if you want to listen to the 1999 episode, it is episode 234, and it was called Big Tunes and Boy Bands, the Hits of 1999, and it came out in February 2019. So it's already available. But
it's like a weird time continuum paradox of itself.
Because I started in the mid-80s, went to the end of the 80s, then went back to the start of the 80s, then went backwards down the 70s until about 1975, and then also was starting to go forward in the 90s, and then went back to the 60s. Then once I got to 74, went back to the 50s.
And in every decade, Cher was there, just watching.
He was. So anyway, what do you think about starting a new decade? I was thinking about this. I was thinking that we should definitely go up, definitely until Top of the Pops finishes in 2006. But I'd even be prepared to go maybe into the very early teens.
Such modern days, such modern times.
I'm not sure how far before I lose interest, not in music, but in chart music. Once the streaming gets hold, and
that's it, isn't it? When we become dinosaurs, then we're preserved in amber when the streaming happens.
It's just that I like a bit of variety. I like some of the I like there to be like the shares alongside the Christina Aguilera.
Yeah, I like a physical copy. I like to have something in my hand. You can't hold a stream. Where is it? Where's it gone? It's just floating around. Oh.
Dear. Well, Lee, before we go, how's life in podcast land? Tell us about what you've been doing, what your shows are at the moment.
I think I've probably there's probably only two that I'm not on at the moment. So my main one is Chewing the Cud, which is you can find on YouTube and type it into the streaming services, and our episodes are there. That's a very light-hearted LGBT sort of magazine TV show. I also do something called Pop Gays of a Certain Age. So this is quite a new thing where a group of gentlemen of the homosexual persuasion of a certain age discuss certain topics. So we've recently done our Eurovision one, and we have just recently done an ABBA one, and that was very controversial. So yes, pop gays of a certain age into a thing on the talking book.
Yeah. The talking book. What's that?
The little creature creeps along with noticing people don't use mouses anymore, do they? They use the thing in front of them.
I've not got a mouse. Well, we call Dealey mouse, so I've got a mouse, but it's not. I don't use him to. I don't use you
to manoeuvre the internet.
No. Oh dear. Well, thank you, Lee. When we come back, as I say, and thank you, Dealey. Yes, thank you for your help too. And so next time you hear from Lee and I, we'll be talking about 2000. And let's just hope there's not too many boy bands. I'm sure there will be. But after the end theme music, we will, of course, have Ik singing us some of the hits of 1998. So do stick around for that. I'm sure he'll pick some marvellous tunes. Okay, goodbye for now, and thanks again, Lee. Bye-bye. Goodbye.
Paul. How do you think that Ike is going to do with the songs of 1998? I don't know. I'm more confident, I guess, in a way. I mean, certainly I think he should do better than he did with a lot of the 1950s. I mean, the songs of the late 1990s are a bit more available, I'd say. You know, they're still played to this day, to a certain extent. Well, I'm sure people play the songs of the 1950s too. Well, I'm sure some people do. You know, your Elvis Presleys, maybe. Yeah, I mean, Elvis Presley, I suppose, and one or two others still get played. I mean, it depends on what age you are. It's different with Ike because he comes to this and it's all new to him. But anyway, well, we'll see. I'm quite positive too. Yes, I think that he'll do his very best. Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of these years, over the years, and there hasn't really been a big improvement in all, but there do seem to be areas where he is better than others. Yes, I would agree. It's strange, really, though, because, I mean, I hope you cannot hear me, but I don't think of Ike as a lazy alien, you know? And yet, when it comes to doing his research for this segment, he is very slapdash. I know, it shows a side to Ike that I never really knew. As you say, an almost lazy side, which, you know, in other ways, he is the complete opposite of lazy. He is almost sort of finicky to the point of obsessiveness. Oh, Paul, well, yes, I guess he has a sort of moral compass that I feel that, you know, not doing his homework is sort of is the opposite of, if you know what I mean. Yeah, no, I mean, well, we ought to stop gossiping. I can hear the theme music coming, so let's just hope he does a great job. I'm sure he will. I look forward to it. Yes, Ike sings the big hits of 1998. Coming up next.
I gotta go now! I don't care! Bye! I want to go with you! Gotta go! Bye!
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
This show is part of the Pride 48 network. Find more shows over at pride48.com.
Oh dear, what's going on now? Oh, it's the Shy Life podcast.
Let's go.
I have a voice. I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice. We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
UnibuzPods.net.
Hello, lovies. This is your Auntie Vera Charles, or your Auntie Scott, or just don't call me late for dinner. Reminding you that the Pride 48 live streaming weekend is happening July 29th through the 31st, 2022. We hope to see you there in the chat room for an amazing weekend of live LGBTQ+ podcasting. For more information, head on over to pride48.com, where they've got pride just flowing right out every orifice in there. It can be unpretty at times.
Oh, let's see. I'll sing some songs from 1998. This time I'm not just going to sing the number ones. I'm going to sing, well, you know, top 10 hits too. So, all around the world, da-da-da-da-da-da-doo. All around the world, do-do-do-do-do. No Surprises by Radiohead. Ding, 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 ding. Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones. Calling Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, where are you? Where are you? Yippee-yi-yi-yi, yippee-yi-yo, yippee-yi-yi-yo, yippee-yi-yo. Yes. Wherever you be, we'll go on. Oh yeah. Brimful of Asher on the 45. The brimful of Asher on the 45. And the brimful of Asher on the 45. Everyone likes a bosom for a pillow. Everyone likes a bosom. Everybody likes a bosom for a pillow. Everybody likes a bosom. This is a real song. Brimful of Asher by Corner Shop. Tom Jones. How do I live without you? How do I live without you? Where? When the lights go out. Stop right now. Thank you very much. I need somebody with a human touch. Hey, you, always on the run. You gotta have some fun. Stop right now. You gotta thank you. Okay. Let me entertain you. It's all over the front page. You give me road rage. Bum 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 bum. It's up to you. You're driving me crazy. Baby, not to maybe. It was the last thing on my mind. Yes. Ray of light. Ray of light.
Have you finished, Ick?
No, Paul, no, I haven't. There's still more to go.
Maybe you should have stuck to just doing the number ones.
No, Paul, be quiet.
All right.
I'm horny. Why are you gonna hear me song so loud? Because we want to. Be there forever. I'll be waiting. La 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 la. La la la. Be there forever. I'll be waiting. La 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 la. La 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 la. Yes. If you talk like this, your children will be next. Cause it's just a little crush, la 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 la. Every time you go, it's just a little crush, da da da. Every da 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 da. Ooh.
I think better wrap it up, Ick. Maybe just one or two more.
No. Oh, we're so rushed. I believe in love of the love, the love of the love. You really don't think I'm strong enough. Oh, you believe in love of the love, the love of the love. I don't think it's strong enough. I really don't think I'm strong enough. Oh, that was good, wasn't it, Paul? Oh, that left. That's insulting. Goodbye. Goodbye, my friend. I'm not being very good with the lyrics this time. Yes, just, but I don't think anyone's noticed. Time to back up, I think. Goodbye, listeners, goodbye.
Oh my God, there's nothing I like better is when another new episode of the Shy Life Podcast comes out. Oh, I think that was a wonderful episode, don't you, Toppy? I sure do. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, kitty, Deely. Purr, kitty. Oh, I love Deely.
549.
Now that one was funny.
It was different. It was not. It was unusual.